Hi students, this is Dr. Perks. Today's lesson is about doing critical reading of journal articles. So for your literature review, you can draw from books, book chapters, all from scholarly communication sources, but the main source that students often use is journal articles. So you always want to go through one of the databases or Google Scholar. For this particular assignment, you have to have a minimum of 4 sources from the communication discipline. And in order to find those, you should go through the Communication and Mass Media Complete Database. So the lessons that were provided in week 1, they carry through to the work you're doing here. So don't forget how to cite properly, how to take notes, and how to find the right kinds of sources. The quick search that I've done is for MP3 players, so specifically for research on those. I've done some podcast research, and there's not a lot of research existing on podcasts. So what you have to do is you have to think about what's related to what you want to research. And podcasting has come out of the popularity of MP3 players. It's also come out of the popularity of smartphones and things like that, but you want to think, I would say, more historically about your research subject. So MP3 players, clicked my search. We can scroll down and see this is about using MP3 players in surveys. It's not exactly what I want. I want to know what people use MP3 players for. So this second source, uses and gratifications of MP3 players, is good, and I'm going to unpack that a little bit. This third source is about using MP3 players in higher education. And remember to keep your lit review topic focused. I'm not interested in how teachers, professors are using MP3 players in higher education. I don't want to learn about audiobooks or things like that they're using. So we're going to skip over that. But this one is important, uses and gratifications of MP3 players by college students. Are iPods more popular than radio? So I've actually downloaded the second source and this fourth source. And I'm going to just walk you through some of the, well, let's see, let me just call them up again. I'm going to walk you through some of the sections of the essays, and I hope that this really helps you to understand what you're reading as you go. So you can save these articles to your hard drive, your desktop, your Dropbox folder, or you can just read them on the library site. But make sure, if you read them on the library site through the databases, that you've taken good notes on what the source is. You should ideally have a full citation for it using all of this information here. And remember to use APA style. In the spring, a bunch of students read articles to the databases and then forgot which articles they read. So they wasted that time. So just make sure you're not wasting your time. Oh, there we go. And you're taking good notes. So this is the Li Zhang piece, and it's from Communication Research Reports, which I know is actually a journal that publishes very brief essays. So in some ways, that's helpful for this process to unpack what's going on with each article. All right, so this section up here, oh, there's an email for John, from Jack, sorry. Thanks, Jack, I'll get back to you. So this little italicized section up here, this is the abstract. Almost every article will have one of these, and that is to help you get a sense of what the article is about and if it's going to be useful to you. I am interested specifically in the study's findings about why people are using MP3 players. So they have, the author has 5 distinct gratifications that he or she found. Right, so it's very brief. It also has keywords to give you a sense of some of the main themes coursing throughout this article. All right, so once we've got the abstract kind of in our minds and we know the article is good for us and our purposes, we're going to read through and skim through. One critical reading strategy is to go through and look at the headings. So hopefully I won't make you dizzy, but I'm going to scroll. This first section is the introduction, and then I have a heading here, which I'm going to stop at, and some will say lit review and some will not. Some will just give you a topic. U and G stands for uses and gratifications, and then it says and new media technologies. Okay? So that is the focus of this author's lit review. This doesn't say the word theory in it, but uses and gratifications is the theory framing or helping us understand the findings for this study. And just to give you a definition of what a theory is, communication scholar Judy Burgoon says that theory is a set of systematic, informed hunches about the way things operate. So it's essentially a guess informed by research that helps provide order and understanding to a collection of different phenomena. Uses and gratifications is a media theory, and it focuses on why we use media. So I would expect this article to answer the question of why people use MP3 players. After the lit review, scroll down to our next heading. You'll see that there's a research question here. Whenever you see RQ, that's a research question. If you see H, that's a hypothesis. And there are often multiples of those, so HQ1, HQ2. You will not see these types of notations for all studies. Rhetorical criticism, for example, might not list a research question, and it definitely won't list a hypothesis. Those are more social scientific ways of doing research. This is a subsection, it looks like, of our literature review. It's different kinds of gratifications. This is another subsection of our lit review. We're still in that lit review section. And we have 2 new research questions. Now we're getting to our next main section, which is method. So every study is going to have to tell you about its method. In qualitative and quantitative work, you'll usually have a sense of who the study participants were. If it's a rhetorical criticism essay, there's no people that are being studied, there's a text. So your text might be a TV show, it might be a film, it might be a collection of political advertisements. That's going to look a little bit differently. When they say instruments here, this would be different sets of questions. So independent variables, they have a list of potential gratifications. And then they had a discussion about their focus group methodology. And so from that focus group methodology, the author came up with another list of potential gratifications or reasons why people used MP3 players. And finally, they used that information to make a survey of 24 items with what's called a Likert scale. So the Likert scale means you have to select an option between or ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree. Right? And then we have our findings down here. So the population for this study was 337 users. I'll slow myself down here. Okay. I don't know what a Verimax rotation is, and you don't have to know that either. I know that SPSS is the statistical analysis software. I know generally what a principal components analysis is, but you don't have to muddle through all of that. Okay. So I want you to actually scroll down. They've got their stats here. Hopefully the reviewers check these stats before this went to publication. But you've got some findings here that are helpful. There are different factors that fed into people's motivations for using MP3 players. So under the umbrella title of control, you had people, you can see here that they generally strongly agreed, okay, to this idea of, I like to listen whenever I want to. I have a long enough playlist of what I like, so this is all on my MP3 player. And these high scores over here, again, mean it was close to a 6 of strongly agree. All right, so there's 5 major factors. You don't have to be able to interpret this table, but you'll always go down to the conclusion or the discussion. Okay, here's discussion. And again, for this type of brief research report, it's going to be very short. So you'll usually give a brief overview again of what your study was meant to do, what the purpose was. And then this is a key thing to note, right? So you always want to take notes on what they did and how they did it. So what is the study? How did they conduct it? Is it qualitative? Is it quantitative? And then you want to focus on the findings. So this study, and we saw in the abstract, we knew this was coming, but the study identified 5 distinct factors of gratifications from MP3 players. Right? So it's control, entertainment, companionship, status, and concentration. If I were taking notes on this, I would go to a spot earlier in the article where the author unpacked and explained what exactly does that refer to, right? So remember we talked about I can listen to what I want when I want or something along those lines. And so being able to, in your literature review, define what each term means, if needed, that's really important. Like how does an MP3 player promote status, right? I'd need to go back and see how the study author defined that. Okay, and so this actually puts it in context with other studies. So some of these factors were in previous uses and gratifications research, but they're unique uses of MP3 players. They have a new potential gratification here, right? Concentration. So that's interesting. A conclusion or a discussion section, that's going to be where a lot of the meat of the notes are. So when you're taking notes for the lit review, you want to think about, okay, what did this study uniquely contribute to knowledge? At the end, they'll have limitations and suggestions for future research. At this stage, you don't really need to cover that. But again, focus on the discussion or the conclusion. You need to take notes on the method, and you should note the major theory that the article author uses or draws from. Please always let me know if you have any questions, and I'm happy to help. Thanks.